Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, all about creating cost-effective content for VR. We'll get started right now. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you signed up for this webinar, you'll likely already have a VR solution you're using, or at least considering adopting one. But you'll likely come to realize that the hardware portion, whether you're using VR goggles or just a browser to view, isn't the important part. The critical part are the images you use to tell the story. Like any medium, VR depends on its content to achieve the result that you want with your clients. So today we'll be reviewing some key ways to create that. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Dana Warren, and I am the Client Success Manager with Yulio VR. At Yulio, we know that content creation is a challenge, so we've designed Yulio from the ground up to make it easy to author your scenes in VR, and we'll explore them in more detail today. We're going to cover 5 ways you can create content for VR, and some creative ways of combining them. For example, some really engaging projects can be created by using both 360 photos and renders. The last one, Yulio Jump, is our new cloud rendering engine software for SketchUp users, and I'll show you some demos of what is possible with that tool. Excuse me. I want to start with 360 photo capture because it's the simplest and can be the least expensive form of content creation. 360-degree photo is a spherical panoramic image that closes in on the original point from which the photo was taken. 360-degree photos give a human's eye view of a space, allowing the viewer to experience the setting like they're actually there. Uploading the photo to a VR viewer allows you to look up, down, left, or right, and even spin around in a circle to fully explore the space. Obviously, for 360 photos, you have to be dealing with a space that already exists. You need to do the physical photography. You can't capture a space yourself with cameras starting from about $400 and ranging up to the thousands. If you're shooting a space yourself, let me just provide a few key positioning tips. The best position for the camera in any scene corresponds directly to where you would stand if you wanted to get the best view, for example. Position the camera in the center of the scene so there's plenty to look at in every direction. Set it to the eye height of an average person, typically 5'6" in North America, so people don't feel like they're either floating or have to come into the scene without their legs even. Remember that 360-degree cameras capture everything, including adjustable arms on a tripod if they stick out too far. You can also hire a professional photographer who specializes in 360 photos. If you do choose to hire someone, there are a few things to keep in mind. Google verified 360 photographers are a great option for professional-looking 360 photos. These are going to provide you with that professional effect that a cheaper camera can't necessarily provide. When hiring someone, check that they shoot in stereoscopic, not monoscopic. Stereo is what is going to give your photos depth and look amazing in VR. Define your project. Be very clear about your project and expectations, how many shots you want, if post-processing is required, and also explore your options. You don't necessarily have to go with the first photographer that you find. Take the time to interview a couple and see which one will be the best fit for you and your project. And pricing. Make sure to ask upfront and ensure it's in your budget. I cannot stress that enough. You want to talk about the number of shots you want for the space, how many different camera angles. You just want everything out on the table before you go ahead and hire a photographer. 360 photos are a valuable method of building your portfolio, and it might be worthwhile capturing them for any project you complete. They can typically be used on your website to create a more interactive portfolio, on your social media accounts even, or even during pitches with clients. If you upload your 360 photo into a platform like Yulio, you can open it on your phone and use a clip-on pair of VR goggles to create a true VR portfolio in your pocket that you can take to any pitch. It can really make your pitch stand out from others and prove to clients that you're on the leading edge of design technology. I literally carry a pair of clip-on goggles wherever I go. So if I ever want to show anyone one of my projects in VR, I can just pull my phone out right then and there. Okay, so the next method is about working with cube maps from your CAD programs. Unlike photography, when you design in CAD, you can show any element of a project when it hasn't even been created yet, or maybe show an alternative to what's really there in the photographs. When you generate a cube map with CAD, you can use it in VR to build the 360 view, with your viewer starting from any camera position you choose in your project. A cube map is made up of 6 images which are stitched together to form an environment. The environment is projected onto the sides of a cube and stored as 6 separate square textures or as a single texture where all faces are unfolded. The 6 squares or textures form the faces of a cube surrounding the viewer, and each face represents the view along the directions of the world axis. The stereoscopic image, which is the one that's going to give you that depth and look really amazing in VR. Stereoscopic images for VR consist of 2 slightly different sets of image captured for the left eye and the right eye. So that's what you're seeing on screen there. You have your 6 images for the right eye and 6 images for the left eye, which makes it stereoscopic. Okay, so now let's go over some key tips for optimizing your CAD projects for VR. In your CAD program, like I said earlier, set the camera height to 5'6", regardless of if you're doing 360 photography or designing in CAD. This can be important because dropping someone into a scene at the wrong height can actually be a little bit nauseating and kind of disorienting. The 5'6" camera height will give you a good perspective height when you're viewing the VR project. You also want to think about the camera position your client will see at the start of the experience. You don't want them facing a blank wall after all, so you have to consider that starting spot, and you can actually customize that in Yulio as well. Next, really think about what you're designing for. When you're designing for virtual reality, you have to keep in mind that the user can look all around them as opposed to just one single direction. So remember to design for above, behind, below, literally everywhere. Your client can look all around. And don't forget to add a ceiling. We see a lot of first-time designs that are open to just kind of a gray void. You don't necessarily have to design the ceiling, so it's okay if it is like that. However, we recommend just kind of putting some sort of roof over top. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just kind of finishes off your space and makes it look really professional. And it's also super immersive for somebody viewing your project in virtual reality. It makes them feel like they're actually standing inside of the space rather than having to look up to nothing, essentially. And then finally, think about the story you're trying to tell and how you can get that across with additional features in the VR program, how you will link your scenes together, and can you add audio or other images to help set the scene. If you're still looking for a VR solution, try to find something that's compatible with your existing CAD workflow. Great design is the key to great VR, so you'll want to choose a VR solution that encourages you and your design team to experiment, and not something that requires you to learn software from the ground up. Always focus on design first for the best VR, and don't get caught up in the mechanics. Designing in a CAD program is already time-consuming, so you may feel like adding a new step to the workflow is daunting, but it honestly comes down to the rendering stage, and you can render a VR-compatible scene with our CAD plugins, which means all you'll need to do is upload your files to Yulio and click View in VR to send them to your Yulio Viewer VR app on your phone. New technology can seem intimidating, but Yulio was designed to be used by anyone. Things like our CAD plugins and authoring within Yulio may seem complicated, but we can assure you that the workflow process for you is not changing much. And anything you're unfamiliar with is a small learning curve in the scheme of things. We are here to help make sure that you have success with your clients. So anything you run into, we can help you overcome. If you install the plugin that matches the CAD program in your workflow, you can make any 3D CAD design into a VR design. Click on the Yulio plugin button in your CAD program, and once the project is done rendering, you can upload the cube map file to Yulio, and there you go. A virtual reality experience you can share with your client. And also just note that Yulio is compatible with more programs than just the ones we have CAD plugins for. Any CAD program that can create that cube map that matches our upload requirements is compatible with Yulio. So I know there are a ton of CAD programs out there that are compatible. Just note that we have created CAD plugins for Revit, Rhino, SketchUp, CET Designer. I think I'm forgetting one, but I think that that's all of them. We can just double check on the CAD plugins page after. Alrighty. Now, just before we move on to our next method of content creation, I want to talk a little bit about fidelity. A designer wanting to communicate an idea quickly doesn't obsess about making their pencil sketch perfect, and it should be the same with VR. All renders should be useful, but only very few needed to be beautiful. Confirming feasibility of a design or a scheme by doing a simple black and white proof of concept with the correct dimension can save countless hours, dollars, and chances of future issues. Use VR to pop in and out of a draft design, check the validity of an idea, and get buy-in from a client. The alternative can be having to field conversations on carpet selection and lighting choices before the floor plan is set. And when you're creating with CAD, think about how far you need to take the design. It can save you a lot of time. Of course, if you don't have an in-house design team or their queue is full, an option is to turn to services. There are a lot out there, and more they compete on price alone. But when you're choosing a service, find one that you can communicate with directly. If you're just filling out forms on a web page, getting the details and nuances of your project can be a challenge. I also recommend looking for someone who has worked in the vertical you're taking on before, whether that's education, medical, a tech hub, or a residential service. Look for someone who has worked in it before and has learned from other jobs. That will make yours even better. And finally, ask about details like how rates are charged. Is it by time or project? Ask about charges and iterations and changes, what's included, and finally, be sure to ask about file output formats. You can evaluate our partner team KISP to see if they meet your needs as well. You can find more information about them and their work at the website on screen there. So just try.kisp.com/visualizations. One big thing KISP does that can really make your rendering presentation stand out is to combine photos and renderings. A use case for this would be showing a few alternatives for a setup, like the team has done with this office you're seeing on screen. This works really well in cases where you're presenting a space that needs to be flexible and used in multiple ways. You can stage and photograph it one way and use the renderings to show alternatives. I've also seen clients do this to show a before and after transformation, or do a few renderings in different color schemes to get people thinking about the possibilities and making decisions faster. So this next method of creating content is a tiny bit of a cheat, but if you really want to create inexpensive content for VR, you want to consider how you can repurpose and iterate what you already have. There are a couple key methods to do this. Reuse your content. Consider creating a few different environments or wrappers that fit a style of home or office. Maybe you'll have a traditional and a modern environment, or one that's largely gray versus beige, or whatever might suit your purpose. When you have the environment created, it's relatively inexpensive to change out the content. Whether you're doing that by yourself or hiring a service to change an environment they've created for you previously. Another way to leverage your investment in content across several pitches or clients is to start building a portfolio of projects. Depending on the VR software you're using, you may be able to share them for your designers to iterate across styles or verticals. It's another consideration for which VR solution you choose. You can create a master project and share it with designers who can do something like make a copy and iterate on it themselves. Our final method of content creation is going to take us into some live Yulio projects, but I want to describe the benefits of cloud rendering for you first. Much of this is unique to Yulio, but maybe something to consider as you go about choosing your VR solution. Cloud rendering saves you valuable time by happening entirely in the cloud, leaving your computer free to do things like respond to clients, write up proposals, or whatever you need to do to continue your business running. Maybe even continue design in CAD while the cloud rendering is happening. We recognize that two of the biggest barriers when rendering an image are design and machine rendering time. Depending on how powerful your computer is, your project could take anywhere from half an hour to 4 hours to finish rendering. Not to mention, the rendering process occupies the majority of your RAM, making it almost impossible to work on other tasks, chip away at projects, or communicate with clients. But that is where Yulio Jump comes in. I'm going to take a few minutes to show you some live samples in Yulio and how we can cloud render successfully from your files, so you'll know what's possible. Yulio Jump equips SketchUp designers with an all-in-one tool to create immersive designs without needing supplementary software or training. So let me just jump over to yulio.com right here. And I'm just going to show you a couple samples of projects that were rendered with Yulio Jump for SketchUp. So this one we're looking at here. And the Yulio Jump for SketchUp plugin actually has an auto-generate floor plan feature and auto-generate navigational hotspots. So all of these kind of navigation hotspots that you're seeing, that's point-to-point navigation. So it allows you to travel from one scene to the next. Yulio Jump will create and generate all of those for you, so you don't have to spend the extra time doing that. And it'll also auto-generate a floor plan for you, so you can select the exact point on the floor that you would like to travel to. This model was designed with Yulio. That was our ambient audio feature, which auto plays audio. Sorry. You can put text, images. We'll take a look at another sample here. This one was also rendered with Yulio Jump for SketchUp. And again, you're keeping in mind that you can design for 360 now, so your viewers can literally look all around. So you can imagine how immersive it is to be viewing a fully enclosed space rather than something that maybe has an open ceiling, for example. Here's another example, Yulio Jump for SketchUp. And again, these are all live projects in Yulio ready to be viewed and shared and collaborated with. And like we said earlier, Yulio Jump is a cloud rendering engine, so you can continue working away in SketchUp, working on your computer, responding to emails while all of the rendering is happening. So you don't have to just kind of sit there and let your computer do its thing while it's rendering. You can continue working on your computer while the rendering is happening. Okay, and like I said before, I'm just coming back to the CAD plugins here. So we got SketchUp, 3ds Max, Rhino, CAT Designer, and we do have Revit as well. So those are the 5. I'm sorry if I missed one earlier, but I needed to come back to that. So a little bit more information about Yulio Jump. So like I said, with just a few simple clicks, you can jump the rendering timeline and create stunning VR presentations or 2D perspective renders within minutes. Yulio Jump for SketchUp Auto applies material and lighting enhancements and will turn your SketchUp design into a stunning project ready for VR. Plus, Yulio Jump can auto-generate a floor plan and navigation hotspots like I just showed you in the sample there. And within a few simple clicks, you can show off your design in an impressive VR presentation. Let me just jump back here and show you a couple examples of 2D renders from Yulio Jump for SketchUp. Sorry, the image is just duplicating there. It does not look like that. So here is one perspective. So that's that kitchen scene we were just looking at together. So again, with Yulio Jump, you can do both. You can render those 360 panoramas for VR as well as 2D perspective images. So there's just a couple different perspectives for you. Okay, so I just want to encourage everyone who is with us today to learn more about creating content for VR with our white paper. All of our white papers are available at yulio.com/whitepapers, along with other case studies and other information as well. And if you have not tried Yulio yet, you should go sign up for a free account. You can get 30 days and you don't have to enter a credit card when you sign up. So you can create your first VR experiences in minutes with projects you have. Visit yulio.com/pricing to sign up and see all of our different plan options as you see on screen there. The trial, just note the free trial there does not include the Yulio Jump rendering option, but you can check out all of our other features practically. You can upload 360 photos and use your CAD projects just without Yulio Jump there. Okay, so I hope that reviewing those gives you some confidence in being able to create VR projects for like your major pitches or getting final sign off. Don't forget, like any design, the key is really to put your focus in the design phase first. Do that and the technology will show your project off beautifully. I'm always available for any questions after the webinar at support@yulio.com. And please remember to check out our showcase and white papers during your investigation of VR. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and we will see you next time.